Hello. A little off of my normal time, but we have so much going on here that I thought I would put together a little mini episode to talk about an exciting project collaboration that I have going on. So I'll see you on the other side. Hello and welcome to this special bonus edition of Gary Knits, Gary Rides, a Craftivism podcast at the corner of making things and doing good. My name's Gary. I'm a cyclist for AIDS Life Cycle. In addition to being a knitter and a crocheter, you can find me at Gary Knits, Gary Rides on Instagram and at GaryKnitsAndRides on Ravelry. I have some exciting news. You may have seen my live over on Instagram, which I also posted here on YouTube with Jake Kenyon of Kenyarn, who's a fabulous indie dyer. Each June, Jake dyes a special colorway, which he then sells as a fundraiser for Pride. The part of the proceeds go to an LGBTQ plus organization. He reached out to me and said that he was interested in designing a colorway inspired by and to support AIDS Life Cycle, which obviously is a cause near and dear to my heart since I've been a rider with AIDS Life Cycle for the last 5 years. So we had a little chat and I sent him some photos of some of the jerseys and merch that the AIDS Life Cycle people have put out for this year. And he took a liking to one of the jerseys and dyed up this, which is the Love Bubble colorway on his Aurora fingering base. So that's his 80/20 Superwash Merino base. And he has put this colorway up on his website for pre-order from now or from earlier this week until the 25th of the month. And the yarn is $30 a skein, $17 of which will be donated to AIDS Life Cycle. So I know that Jake is hoping to sell 600 skeins of yarn, which is amazing. It would be a huge donation to AIDS Life Cycle. So I want to try to help him out to reach that goal. And in our conversation, we had a couple of ideas of different patterns that we thought would work well with this yarn. And I said that I was going to put together a list and do a little mini episode about some patterns that I thought worked great with Love Bubble. So Love Bubble, the name, if you haven't seen the live, Love Bubble refers to what we on the ride each year refer to the community that is built for those 7 days as we ride our bikes down from San Francisco to Los Angeles. There's about 2,000 plus riders each year and probably another 1,000 crew, and we've just created this little moving city full of community, and everyone's sort of working towards one goal, and that has gotten over the years named the Love Bubble. So that's where the name comes from. Anyway, so let me quickly just show you how the yarn works up in different stitches before I get into my choices for some patterns that I think would work well either knitting or crocheting with 1 or 2 skeins of the Love Bubble yarn. So first up I have my knitted swatch, which is stockinette. Oh, if it doesn't get blown out by the sun, it just came out. So that is the stockinette swatch. I also have one crocheted in half double crochet. This was Jake's favorite. Kind of gets that swirly pooling. And then finally I did a motif which is kind of falling apart on me here, but just to see how it kind of works up and how a granny square would look. So you just get a little bit of that red pops in there, which I think is lovely. So I came up with a few patterns that I thought would work well for 1 or 2 skeins of the yarn. So the yarn is fingering weight. It is a 400 yard per 100 gram skein. And these were all mainly already in my queue or in my favorites in Ravelry. And so I've grouped them by 1 or 2 skeins. And then as we were having our conversation, Jake pointed out you could easily hold the yarn double to use as a DK weight yarn. So I put together a few DK weight patterns that I thought would also work as well. So first up on the knitting side, a one skein pattern, which I actually already cast on, and I'd mentioned this on my live with Jake, but here it is. I haven't gotten very far, but this is the Tart hat by Fatimah Hinds, aka Disturbing the Fleece on Instagram. I'll pop a picture of it over here. And this hat I've actually made before. I had a friend, if you've watched my channel for a while, you know I had a friend who was going through chemo, and she asked me to make her some hats. And so this was the first one that I made for her. She absolutely loves it. It was a super fun pattern. And I did not need to be casting on anything new. As you know, I have several things that I'm working on deadline. But I thought it would be awesome to have this hat in this yarn to be able to wear in camp every night on the ride. So it tends to get chilly in camp at night once the sun goes down. For whatever reason, also after I've done a long ride, I get very cold. So even if it's 70, 80 degrees, I often get a chill. So I often have a hat and a vest on in camp at night after each day's ride. So that would just be really fun to have my AIDS Life Cycle colorway hat made. So I am making this the Not Too Tart hat by Fatimah Hinds. It is available on Ravelry. It takes 150 to 200 yards depending on your yarn. It is only in one size, and the pattern is $4 knit up on a US 3. I apologize for looking down. I have all my notes here. I could not possibly memorize all the details of all of these patterns. So that's the first one skein pattern on the knitting side. The second one that I had is called Pioneer Gloves, and this is by Kelly McClure, aka Boho Knits on Instagram. Takes 110 to 200 yards on a US 2. These are, as you can see, fingerless mitts, which I think are really cute. They come in 3 sizes: adult, small, medium, large, but then come in 2 lengths. So one that's kind of mid forearm, and then one that's more kind of just covering your wrists. So I thought that was also a great project. Quite frankly, given the amount of yarn that you need, you could probably do one of the smaller sizes in the gloves and get a Not Too Tart hat out of it. It's again a free pattern on Ravelry. Those are the Pioneer Gloves. The next single skein project that I have, actually I have right behind me here, but I'll pop a better picture of it up over here. I keep putting over there, it's this way. And it is the Canyon Donning Shawlette by Ambah O'Brien. It's on my calendar because it is this month's featured pattern from the Two Sheeps calendar. They are obviously showing it with colorway inspired by the Grand Canyon, but I think it would also look great in this Love Bubble yarn. It's a single skein pattern, takes right at 400 yards on a US 5, and because I love a double dip in terms of donations, 100% of the sales proceeds of the pattern, it's a $6.50 pattern, but 100% of the proceeds of the pattern sales during the month of April are going to the Warawa Aboriginal College, which is a secondary school in Australia that serves Aboriginal girls in grades 7 through 12 from rural areas. So it's a great way to double dip. Buy the yarn, part of it goes to AIDS Life Cycle, buy that pattern, and part of it goes to help this Aboriginal college in Australia. So that is the Canyon Donning Shawl. And the last single skein project that I have on the knit side is One and Done by Casa Pinka. I think she has a lot of single skein projects, but this one I thought was particularly cool. It uses drop stitches to really give you a much bigger shawl than you would if it was all completely knit across. She shows it in some super colorful yarns, but I think it would also look really cool in this much more subdued palette with mainly the blues and just the little pops of red. So that also takes right at 400 yards on a US 6. It is a $7 pattern. The size of the shawl is 87 inches wingspan by 13 inches deep. I should have said on the Ambah O'Brien, the Canyon Donning Shawl, the wingspan is 61 inches by 14 inches deep. So I think that's a really nice sized shawl. If you remember earlier, well I guess it was late last year, I knit the Pure Joy by Joji Locatelli and took it with me on my vacation. It was a perfect size for kind of fall, spring days. Not too heavy, so it wasn't going to wear you down if the sun came out. But it was just really nice to have that extra little layer around me. So those were all the single skein knit designs. I did have one that is a 2 skein project, which I'm actually going to use some of my yarn to make, I think, for myself. And I mentioned it on the live. It is the Dotted Rays by Stephen West, aka West Knits on Instagram. Here's a picture of it. It comes in 2 sizes, so 2 skeins would only make the smaller of the 2 sizes. It takes 720 yards for that size on a US 6. If you wanted to make the larger version, it would take 1,200 yards. So I guess if you wanted to do a 3 skein project, I'm not going to discourage you from buying 3 skeins of this yarn, but you could use the 1,200 skeins. 1,200 skeins, yes, please buy 1,200 skeins. 1,200 yards to make the larger version. But the small version is 82 inches in wingspan and 21 inches deep. So it's a pretty sizable shawl. That pattern is available on Ravelry, also probably on the West Knits website for €7. So those were all of the single and double skein knitted projects that I had. I'm so sorry. I forgot one. I was going to mention another 2 skein pattern on the knit side, and it's the All Eyelets on Me Cowl by Casey Hurley, who is Casey Knit on Instagram. It is 463 yards of fingering weight on a US 5. It's a $7 pattern, but Casey runs a buy 2, get 1 free special on all her patterns on Ravelry, so you could use that and it will bring down the cost significantly. It is 1 size and has a 60-inch wingspan. So apologies for forgetting that one, and back to the program. Pardon me, I just looked outside and there's a peacock in my driveway. On the crochet side, I came up with several. Again, most of these were already in my favorites, and I think they are all single skein projects. I couldn't find any double skein projects that were sort of things that I was really sort of attracted to. The first one, and I mentioned this with Jake as well, is the Bifurcation beanie, and that's by Connie Lynch, who is Crochet Cetera on Instagram. It's an $8 pattern, comes in 9 sizes from newborn up to adult large, and will take anywhere from 150 to 458 yards. So I guess if you were making that adult large size, you would dip into a second skein of yarn. I would have to check the pattern page to see exactly what the dimensions are on that large size, but it's all done on a C-hook, 2.75 millimeters. Really, really pretty beanie. As you can see, almost looks like cables, and I think it's really, really attractive. The second one is a shawl. It is the Party Punch Shawl by Toni Lipsey, who is TL Yarn Crafts on Instagram. It is 350 to 360 yards of fingering weight yarn on an I 5.5 millimeter hook. It is available for $7.50 on Ravelry. It is 45 inches across and 15 inches deep, so it is a relatively small shawl. I don't know if, given that you have a little bit extra yarn, or if you wanted to take a second skein, if it's one of those patterns where you could just keep going and make it bigger if you wanted to. I said it's $7.50 on Ravelry. There are discount codes available from Toni, and it's actually also available free on her website. So that is the Party Punch Shawl from TL Yarn Crafts. The next one is another hat. I love a hat. Is the Cozy Beanie by Jean-Ann Athow. I hope I'm getting that right, or Athow. She's Cerulean Orchid AD on Instagram. Prolific crochet designer. This hat is a very sort of standard cozy beanie. It is 270 yards, 1 size on a D hook. That's 3.25 millimeters. She has a ton of patterns, hat patterns, shawls, and everything. Many of which would work with this yarn, because she has lots of knits and things like that, all crochet, that would fit perfectly within a single skein project. But the last one that I picked out is a pair of mitts. It's called the U-turn mitt. Has some really interesting construction. I think would look really cool in this colorway. The designer is Sybil R. She is on Instagram as Sybil RA2. These mitts, it's a free pattern, take 186 to 241 yards on a 3mm hook. There's also a knit version. I did not look it up, but there is a knit version of this pattern, but I assume that you would easily be able to get a pair or two out of a single skein of the yarn. So those are the crochet patterns if you're using this yarn held alone as a fingering weight yarn. But as Jake mentioned, it would be really easy to grab two strands of this and work at a DK weight. And so I decided, why not look for some DK patterns as well? And the first one is one that Jake himself mentioned on the live, and that is the Sophie Scarf, which is hugely popular right now by Petite Knit. Takes only 100 to 140 yards on a US 4 of DK weight yarn, so you could definitely get probably almost two out of a single skein of the fingering weight yarn held double. And the price on that on Ravelry is 30 Danish kroner. I did not do the foreign exchange translation for you, so you'll just have to figure it out, but I doubt that it's very much. It's a very small kind of kerchiefy almost scarf that can be wrapped around a couple of times. Very cute, as I mentioned, very, very popular. Lots of people making them right now. The second one that is a single skein held double is the Easy Beanie from Brandy, Cheyenne, Harper, who is Brandy, Cheyenne, Harper on Instagram. It takes between 100 and 182 yards of DK weight yarn, so you can definitely get one out of a single skein of fingering weight. It comes in 8 sizes from newborn up to adult large, and it is a $12 pattern on Ravelry. Really great looking beanie, lots of options in terms of folding it up as a double brim, letting it roll up. Very, very cute. Very nice crown decreases on it as well. So that's the Easy Beanie by Brandy, Cheyenne, Harper. Another hat, and one that I particularly like, is the Nido hat by Jared Flood of Brooklyn Tweed fame. It takes between 80 and 275 yards of DK weight yarn. So it would be, at those larger sizes for sure, a 2 skein project holding these. No, you could, at the very top, you would need a second skein, but for most of the sizes, you could probably do it with a single skein. And it has 2 needle sizes, so I assume one's for the brim and one's for the body, US 3 and US 4. It has 5 sizes from newborn up to adult, medium, large, and it is a $13 pattern on Ravelry. So that's the Nido hat by Jared Flood. And then the last one on the knitting side at a DK weight is the Empower Lace Cowl by Romi Hill. It is a free pattern and takes 250 to 280 yards of DK weight yarn on a US 8 needle. And it's a very nice lace cowl, as you can see here. And I think I think it would look particularly good in this colorway because there's not too much going on in it where it's going to get lost with the color changes in the yarn. So that's the Empower Lace Cowl by Romi Hill. Last stretch we have our crochet patterns that are going to take a DK weight, so you would need one of them I think you could do on with a single skein. The rest of them are going to be double skein projects. So the one that takes a single skein is the Simple Twisted Earwarmer by Rebecca Langford. She is on Instagram as Yarn and Chai Designs, or Yarn and Chai Designs. It takes between 80 and 120 yards on an H 5mm hook. It has 4 sizes from toddler up to adult large, and it's a free pattern. It's really cute. I mean, it wouldn't probably look great on me, but I think for babies and kids and people with longer hair, maybe it would be really cute, kind of with a little twist in the front earwarmer. So then I have 3 that are going to take 2 skeins of the yarn. The first is another hat that I find very attractive, which is called The Best Guy Hat Ever. It is by Brenda KB Anderson, who I could not find on Instagram, so I'm not sure if she has an Instagram presence or not. This is an older pattern that's put out by Interweave, but you can still buy it on Ravelry for $7.99. It takes 200 to 300 yards of DK weight yarn and comes in 3 sizes and is done on a H-hook, also 5mm. Then there is the 8-hour Cabana crochet shawl, which is a very simple looking but very nice looking shawl, as you can see here. And it is designed by Pattern Princess, who is Pattern Princess 1 on Instagram. And I did not write down how much that pattern costs on Ravelry. I apologize for that. It'll all be in the show notes along with everything else that I've talked about here. And then last but not least, another 2 skein project on the crochet side is the Stitch Music Cowl. And it takes 225 yards of DK weight yarn, 2 hook sizes, 4mm G and a 5mm H. The dimensions on it are, it's a cowl, so it's 24 inches circumference by 14 inches at its longest depth. And that is designed by CJ Brady, who is on Instagram as CJ Brady Designs. And again, I didn't write down how much that one is, but please check the show notes below for all of the details. So that is it. Those are the patterns that I picked out from my favorites that I thought would work great with either 1 or 2 skeins of Ken Yarn's Love Bubble. Again, $17 of every skein of Love Bubble sold is going to be donated by Ken Yarn to AIDS Life Cycle, supporting the work of the San Francisco AIDS Foundation and the Los Angeles LGBT Center in the fight against HIV/AIDS. Now, I mentioned a lot of hats and a couple of mitt patterns. Not only do I think they would be great for this yarn, but I did want to hint at something that I've been talking a little bit about, and we'll talk about more as the months progress, as we head into the fall and the kickoff for season 3 of my End AIDS knit-alongs and crochet-alongs. So the kickoff for season 3, which won't happen until September, not only are we going to be having a crochet-along and a knit-along, it's going to be focused on accessories, because it is also going to be the kickoff for a season-long accessory drive for Knit the Rainbow, which is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be prizes and things along the way to make it sort of more fun for everyone. There's going to be a point system based on the items that Knit the Rainbow needs the most, and at the end of the period for the accessory drive, there's going to be a series of prizes based on who knit or crochet the most items, and a bunch of different things along the way. But in terms of that point system, one of the ways that you can get extra points for your knitting and your crocheting is by using either Ken Yarn's Love Bubble colorway or Seismic Yarn's Mother Must Go Now colorway, which is, I'll put here, but is up on Ava's website at Seismic Yarns. Both of those yarns are fundraisers for AIDS Life Cycle. So again, this is another way to sort of double dip in your activism, your craftivism, by supporting AIDS Life Cycle through the purchase of the yarn, and then using that yarn to make something to donate to Knit the Rainbow. You don't have to use those yarns. It's just going to be a bonus in the contest part of the accessory drive. So I think it'll be fun, and if you just want to grab an extra skein, make one of these hats, make one of these mitts for your Knit the Rainbow drive when we get there in the fall, that would be fantastic. So I think that's it. I hope you have enjoyed this little list of patterns, and I hope you're able to go out and grab some of this gorgeous yarn from Ken Yarn and help support AIDS Life Cycle. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next week for a regular scheduled program. Take care. Bye.